Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to AlMaghrib's YouTube channel. Make sure that you turn on your notifications and subscribe so that you don't miss an episode.
Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. I am very honored and excited to have the author of the incredible, yes, I'm hot in this cotton mix strip, Huda Fahmy, and her star, or one of her stars in her strip, her husband, Gehad Olabi. And I'm looking forward to, discussing a little bit of the comic strip and the inspirations behind it today. Welcome, Assalamu alaikum to Huda and Gehad. How are you all doing?
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
The pleasure is absolutely all mine. So this comic strip is incredibly popular. You can find it on Instagram. It tells the story of you and your experience, everything from the name. Yes, I'm hot in this. What caused you to really address, and tell your story in this incredibly hilarious way?
There was so many things, so many factors that that kind of just toppled up, on top of each other, and that led to this. I guess in the end, if I was to simplify the answer, it would just be this desire, this need for representation. I started seeing this boom of representation for this need almost for Muslims to share their stories, because our stories were being told by other people, under the guise of good intentions, and we want to be inclusive, but there was always these two extremes that were being shown, and either the Muslim was a terrorist or had terrorist ties, or it was about war, or it was the woman was a brainwashed, to wear her hijab or something, or it was the other extreme where, she wanted to deny her hijab and deny her religion, and she hated her customs, and she hated her culture, and she hated all of this stuff about herself. And so I just didn't relate to either part of that spectrum, to anything, and to either one of those extremes. So, I kind of decided with a lot of help and encouragement from my family to just kind of share the stories that I had initially wanted to write as a blog, but was given kind of the encouragement by one of my sisters to turn it into a comic for her. She's like, can you just turn it into a comic? And it was just all of the light bulbs went off, and I was just like, yes, oh my God, I'll do that for all of the stories. And
I remember your first comic. It was almost, I think it was stick figures, right?
They were all stick figures, yeah. All the comics were stick figures in the very beginning, because Dad was like, just do stick figures. There's so many people out there who have you seen their art? It's so bad. You have a great story. Who cares if you don't know how to draw? Just do it and write your story out there. We need to hear it.
And you actually did it on paper and pencil. You didn't even digitally do it, right? And you scanned it or something.
Scanned it, uploaded it. It was so rough.
Just
very,
upload
very
it onto Instagram?
I uploaded it first to Facebook, and then once I started, I gained maybe 3,000 followers in a week or something, and I was like, oh man, wow, okay, let me post them to Instagram, since pictures and Instagram kind of just went hand in hand, and then it kind of just finally just took off. Of course, there's all the political climate and everything like that, but it's just too long of an answer, really.
Well, I wanted to ask about that, because it's from the time where you started drawing to the time where it took off. Would you consider this an overnight success story, or was this something that was developing over time?
It was definitely purposeful. I had a goal. I didn't know whether it would take off the way it did. I really thought it was a very niche topic. I thought it was literally for hijabi women, Muslims, but specifically hijab wearing women, because that's the title, right? It's yes, I'm hot in this. It's supposed to be talking about the story of hijabi women and their struggles, because you don't really hear about it. People who, hijabi women who love being hijabis, but hey, we know it comes with some, it comes with some difficulties sometimes. But I read about ways to grow my social media platform, and I drew every single day, and I was very just consistent every single day, drawing something and posting something, and trying to engage with followers. And within a year, it was 100, almost exactly, less than a year. No, it's less than a year. It was 9 months. 9 months, I got to 100,000 followers. So that was, I wouldn't say overnight, but it was definitely.
You had traction from the beginning.
Yeah.
But it wasn't you still had to be purposeful in your approach. But you did hit a chord, and I think people recognize
I didn't. The theme of just feeling left out or feeling like you can't be yourself is so universal, and so I think that's what kind of really made it great.
And I think it's interesting because even I thought in the beginning only Muslims would be interested in reading this, but when you look at your fan base right now, like I would venture to say it's probably 50% Muslim, 50% non-Muslims.
Wow, that's amazing.
A lot of the themes have like commonality with people of religion in general, or people of struggle in general, I guess maybe too. So,
I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is just this incredible embrace of awkwardness in this script. Is that something that you just found again calculated, or is this just something that's just incredibly natural to you? Because it is somewhat autobiographical, right? And so, did you feel like, you know what, I kind of need to be more reserved with regards to, you know, my own adventures?
I mean, when you say reserved.
So, for example, I'm reading this book, right? Yeah. And I read this and I was dying. There's a section where you go up to the Shaykh and you just say, you know, me want man, right? Yeah. And I was dying when I read that. But I myself would never be able to share something like that about myself, right? Like, that's what I mean. Like, just that. And obviously that's what people connect to you about because it's so authentic.
Yes, you know, it's because not verbatim, but it is what happened. And I did tell him, like, listen, I need a man. Like, I need to get married. It was just, it's natural. It's a very natural thing. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. What you see is what you get. I can't lie. I can't be somebody that I'm not. Like, I don't mean to say lie as in, you know, but I can't.
She's authentic in her voice in general.
To a fault.
To a fault. And even I'll be like, maybe you shouldn't talk about that.
Like, you shouldn't say that. Like, you know?
Well, that's the other question, right? Is because you are talking about your family and Jihad, mashallah, as a star, and your mom as well. And is there some sort of editorial process where, you know, Jihad, have you ever had to veto certain things
I mean, she'll ask my opinion, but I don't get veto.
No,
honestly.
No, that's not true. That's not true. In fact, so for my mom, I had to ask her permission because, you know, it's my mom. It's, you know, I don't want to embarrass her and I don't want to do something that she just not, you know, she's not happy with. So in the very beginning, before I even introduced my mom, I showed it to my mom and I said, Mom, is it okay if I do this? And she laughed, and she's also a very kind of chill, easygoing person. And as long as I'm not making her do anything haram or, you know, away from like modesty, you know, something that's immodest or something, she's fine. She's okay. And Jihad, I won't post something unless I show it to him first.
She'll show it to me.
If it has Jihad in it, I will show it to him. Be like, hey, what do you think? And there have been a couple times where you're like, no, my friends read this. And he's like, I don't remember which ones. Okay. I don't remember which ones, but there have been once or twice. And now I just kind of, after those one or twice, like the first or second time, I got an idea of like what you're okay with and what you're not okay with.
His boundaries are?
Like, I can't make him fart in a comic or something. Like, I don't know. It's like, remember that? I don't know.
I don't remember that, but it sounds.
I appreciate that, Jihad. Jazakallah khair. So you mentioned that you write every day or that you draw every day.
I did.
Oh, you don't do that anymore?
No, I can't. I used to.
But it's still important. I mean, at some point of your journey, I think it's important for other aspirational writers to know what your particular journey was. How many strips would you write before you publish one, or did you get to a point where if you draw it, it's pretty much good enough to post?
I in the very beginning, I drew like 7 at a time, and I would try to figure out like which ones were funny enough or good enough, and I would rework them once or twice, and I would show them to Jihad or I would show them to my family, and if they didn't get the reaction that I was hoping they would get, then I would rework it again before I would post it. Now I've been doing this for like 3 years now, and I don't even do that anymore. I'll just post it. So I will still ask Jihad, like if I don't think something is funny, and I drew something recently that I'm like, it doesn't make me laugh, but I put so much effort into making it, and it's exhausting. You know, as a creator, it's exhausting when you're creating something and you're making it and then it's done and then you don't like it. You're like, oh my God, you're just especially
if you're being prolific about it and regular output.
You know, exactly. And so I would show it to him and ask him if he thought it was funny, and he'd just be like, I don't get it. He'd be like, what's the funny part? And I'm like,
and she's learned that if I don't get it, most of her fans won't get it. I'm like the baseline. Does it make sense to me? Because she has like, I mean, you read like, and you're a big fan of comics and stuff like that. So like you understand, like, you know, inside jokes and things like that I might not know because I don't follow comics in general.
Yeah.
So like, that's why like I think you asked my opinion, because if I don't get it, it means I don't know the inside joke, and maybe there's a lot of other people don't understand that concept.
And it might just not be funny. So I sometimes will. The execution of the joke could have gone wrong. I mean, there's so much. I put it through my filter here. And
is there a particular comics that you? I mean, do you still read comics? Are there still comics that you follow? And if so, is there a particular artist that you're chasing?
I mean, Bill Watterson was my absolute favorite since from when I was a kid. I loved him growing up.
What did he draw?
He drew Calvin and Hobbes, and Gary Larson, who draws The Far Side. And The
Far Side I never got.
The Far Side is
never got. I remember in high school or middle school. You know,
I don't get it.
He doesn't get
it's just weird for me.
Weird. It's super weird.
It's my kind of humor. It's so funny. It's so funny. I will sit there crying. I will be in the car days later, and it'll just, the same panel will pop up in my head, and I'll just cry from laughter. And to this day, there are panels that I still remember that will crack me up. To be able to tell, and like his whole thing is he can tell a story and a joke in one panel, in a single panel. He can tell. And so to me, to be able to deliver a whole story and emotion and joke in one panel, that's like amazing. So much talent. And even though I'm talking to two guys who don't get it, but it's okay.
But honestly, like, I noticed the thing about one of her strengths is that she can tell a story really well in a small amount of panels. Okay, when I look at a lot but like, that's your skill. Because when I look at a lot of other comics, even Muslim comics, like I've seen like 10 panels trying to get a point across. And like, I think one of the skills of a good artist is that you can get that point across really quickly, without having me sit there and drag me through an entire process to figure it out.
I'm not like the first one to do it.
I'm just saying, like, I think it's one of your skills.
I can do it, but there are a lot of other people who can do it and do it better. So I'm just saying, like, don't put me up here. I succeed on some, I don't on others.
Man, Gehad is giving us a master class on what it's like to be the supportive husband right now. Okay, we're just absorbing and learning. MashaAllah. Yeah, I do want to ask you though, like, beyond just, you know, general appreciation and support, was there any sort of like calculated you know, steps that you took to kind of either to inspire her, or to support her, or to maybe, was there any point where she was, you know, I mean, as a creator and an artist, there's always a lot of self-doubt that's involved. What is there anything that you can point to that you made sure that you did to support her?
I mean, I knew when she was figuring out what she wanted to do, like she said, she had started talking about she wants to draw, write, I mean, and my whole thing was, you know, don't get obsessed with one. I always told her, don't box yourself in, especially when you're trying to figure out what you want to do. Like, try different things. If it doesn't work, it doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means the avenue didn't work. Try something else. I know in the beginning, she did try a bunch of different approaches actually, and experimented a lot. And, you know, I think that was the thing that was useful for her, was that she was able to take those learnings. And to me, I just tried to always tell her, because like you said, I mean, as a creator, I seen it, that you guys are very critical about your own work, more so than other people are. And that, you know, A, you're more critical to yourself than anyone else is, and B, take, you know, things that don't work out as learning experiments and not as failures in life. And that's what I tried to do from the beginning.
But also practically, like, you paid for my subscription to Adobe Illustrator. You bought my first drawing tablet. Like you were actually there for me, supporting me financially and as well as emotionally, and like, you know what I mean? But you were, I guess, putting your money where your mouth. Like, you were helping me and like really try to achieve this, and you were always pushing me to do it. Like, even when I felt like I didn't want to do it, you were always pushing me to do it. You know, and I was just like, I would crap on myself, like, I'm terrible, I'm horrible, what am I doing? This, I just lucked into this and I don't deserve this, you know.
Imposter syndrome sometimes.
Huge imposter syndrome.
Oh, like, I don't deserve this. That's powerful too. What do you mean by that?
I mean, subhanAllah, because like, okay, so I The publisher for my first book found me. My agent found me. I didn't have to like pitch myself. I didn't have to like query
doors. Yeah.
Do the work that a lot of other authors and illustrators.
And I kept telling her it's because she was successful. The fact people are coming to her in the first place. It's not just that she got lucky, that she put in work and she kept, you know.
But it's still, I feel like, you know, I don't know. So I feel, I don't want it to come out and bring it down around this interview, so I won't bring it into the conversation. But yeah, it's there where this feeling of inadequacy or I don't have the credibility to stand with other illustrators or other comic artists. And so,
well, you know, before you even drew your comic, you actually pitched a book, did you not?
I pitched a memoir, but that was because I hadn't done anything though.
Yes,
I literally had done nothing, and I was just like, oh, there's an open call for Muslim authors. Let me pitch this idea of a book, not even like a book. I had like 3 chapters written, and it didn't work out. And they were like, no, thanks. Like nobody wants a book from you. Nobody knows who you are. So
and I think that's the point, that you had nothing and they told you no. And then all of a sudden you
had to remind me that.
I know.
And like I had forgotten that. And so that helped me a lot. I was like, oh, yeah.
It's not that they just randomly fell in your lap, but you worked hard for it. Right?
I did. And again, him reminding me that like is what helps.
And I feel like imposter syndrome, if you compare yourself to like, you know, the author of Calvin and Hobbes, you're going to feel like you didn't do anything. But at the same time, you have your own audience and that's who you're writing for. And they want to hear from you and they want to see you. They're supporting you.
Yeah, it's funny that you do that, because at the beginning, I would never even try to reach where Calvin, like where Bill Watterson is, because he's just, you know, great above the rest. So I was comparing myself though to other webcomic artists who were on the same kind of scale as I was. But I realized, and Gehad again helped me kind of realize this, was that I was trying to be like them when my entire thing was so different from what they were doing. Like, yes, it was webcomic artists in the same kind of medium, but it's different in that, you know, I'm trying to educate and I'm trying, like there's something behind it in that, like, I'm trying to do this for representation. I'm trying to tell my story. I'm like, if you're not going to pass that mic, I'm going to grab it. Like, I need it, you know, we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
So figuring out like who your audience is a very important, I think, thing.
And one thing that I noticed about you telling your story in particular is that you don't shy away from, I mean, you're very transparent with regards to like even giving a glimpse into conservative Muslim circles. It's not just about Muslim circles, but it's like you're explaining no hand touching, and you're explaining not dating, and you're explaining like all of these different things. And you know, your audience, half of your audience is not even Muslim, right? Yeah. And so what has given you the, you know, what made you consciously do that? And number 2, what gave you the resolve to do that?
I mean, because, first of all, like, why not? Why do I have to be embarrassed or ashamed and, you know, of something that I live my life that I believe, you know, is true and is a way to live my life. And if this is my voice and it's my authentic experience, why shouldn't I get to share that? And we see so many other people sharing all of their types of experiences that, again, I don't really relate to. And it just doesn't seem fair, first of all. And, you know, I don't want to feel ever like I have to censor myself in terms of my deen and the way I live my life. And I think that comes from really just my mom, who always raised us to believe like you can never please the people. Like there are always people in the comments when I write something that's a little bit more like, you can't shake hands and what's the big deal? And it's like, chill out. Like, hey, this is just me. I'm not trying to push it on you. And it's just one, you know. And
that's Muslims and non-Muslims alike.
Usually Muslims.
It's usually Muslims. I rarely get it from non. But anyway, so but yeah, so it's just and my mother, you know, she's like, you can't please the people. You can only please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So live your life trying to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you know, you can't go wrong trying to please Allah. And so I live my life trying to please Allah, and my comics reflect that.
You know, I think it's interesting from an artistic perspective. I think if you want your art to be true, it has to be true to yourself in the first place, right? If you just do what other people want, it will never be real to you, and it will never be the best you could do.
I also I went into this knowing that if people don't get it or they don't think it's funny, you're not the audience for it. Then this, like, you might like some of my other comics. If you don't get like this particular one, it's not meant for you, and that's okay. You have to be okay with that. Not everything you consume is meant or has to be catered to you, and that's kind of what I went into it. And so that encourages me to continue telling.
I feel like your avatar or your audience changed though, that you write for. So you started off very specific, very niche.
Yeah.
You weren't expecting for it to grow that large. You were probably thinking that you're writing for people who are like you and,
Yeah.
your sister, people like you. Mm-hmm.
It's definitely expanded, just because the more that I did this, the more that I am doing this, the more people the more messages that I receive from all these types of people who have been telling me that they have shied away from Islam, or that they grew up Muslim but they'd never liked it, or they always rebelled against it, but they see the humor and the take that I have on it, and that, oh, you can still like live your beliefs and not feel, and separate, I guess, the culture from the deen. And so I write now with more, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to say it. I try to consider more everybody that might be reading this and how it might hurt or help, but not all. Like I said, there are some comics that I just know they're not going to get it, and that's okay with me. But I am a little bit more conscious of what I write, because I don't want to offend, and I don't want to.
But you're still true to yourself.
Yes, not at the expense or at the compromise. I don't compromise anything about my deen or anything about myself, and it's not at the expense of who I am. But I am definitely more conscious, if to be honest, completely honest. Yeah.
Well, you said you don't want to offend. Are there any other red lines that you have with regards to your comics?
Can you rephrase, or what do you mean?
So you don't want to offend people.
Yeah.
Are there other like just things that you've drawn up for yourself as far as things you want to do?
I try not to get into anything super, super religious that requires a sheikh's knowledge to answer or address, because I don't have that knowledge, and I know that I will probably mess it up and not have the best way to explain myself, and I don't want to put myself in that position. So there are definitely things that I won't talk about, that people keep telling me to talk about, and I'm just like, nope. Like, go ask a sheikh, go ask
I remember people asking her for the difference of opinions on moon sightings, and she was just like, follow your local imam, right?
I wish it was that simple, those simple things. Like,
so there won't be any comic strips about moon sighting coming anytime soon?
I mean, not about like which opinion is right.
Yes.
Like, I'm not here to start any wars or anything. I'll make fun of the idea that nobody can agree.
Yeah. I mean, that's an incredible compliment. Like when people come to you and say, you've helped them reconnect with Islam. I'm wondering, with such a large audience that you have now, mashallah, is there any compliment that stands out to you as far as the biggest compliment you've ever received, something incredibly meaningful? Or
honestly, there have been a lot, but
or what motivated you to keep going?
I remember you actually had an educator come and tell you that she was so moved by what you do that she took your stuff and made it into a curriculum for her students to teach them about representation. And
that is more than one. That is a very big compliment, knowing that teachers use my work and my art in their classrooms as whole lessons, like that take like a week to talk about, and they have pictures of my work on the projector, and they're analyzing it, and they're talking about it in these classrooms, and that's just like, as a former teacher, that's just amazing to even be like, oh my God, like they're being exposed. And then from teachers who've said, I've just ordered a bunch of your books to have in my classrooms, and librarians who tell me that they have, they're quickly taken out, and they're on hold, and there's this big long wait list. And those are the kind of like, wow, like that's amazing. Alhamdulillah.
Are your comics in libraries at schools now?
Schools, public libraries. Yeah.
Mashallah, that's amazing.
It is pretty cool.
Gehad, as far as, even just from your interaction now, I see that you're like incredibly invested in your wife's work, which is absolutely beautiful. Why are you guys snickering about that?
A little too much.
I'd be like, I believe in you, you should do it. She'd be like, chill. I'm okay.
I'll do it tomorrow.
I was like, no, you can't do it. People are expecting it.
Yeah. Love this. Let's do some customer validation. He has so much drive for this. And he's really good at what he does, and I'm very much like, we'll let it come. It'll happen if it's meant. You know, like sometimes I'm just tired.
You say really good at what he does. Is there like are you involved from a business aspect as well, or okay?
I'll let you answer this.
No.
You want to be. We've gotten into so many tiffs, to put it politely. I really don't have the ambition to really fully embrace the business
She's an artist. She's a pure artist. She doesn't care about
story. I just want to tell the story.
She doesn't care about anything but just drawing. And I'm just you should make more structure, and you can do these things.
Hire. What did you say?
I said hire a team so you don't overwhelm yourself.
Marketing. What is it?
I told her to hire someone to help her because she wanted to make videos at one point in time. I was like, don't do it yourself. I'll help you hire a video animator. And she's just like, yeah. I'm just like,
too much.
Trust me, man. Artists, they need that manager next to them, that business mind next to them. Otherwise, they turn into what's called starving artists. The starving artist is a real thing.
I had dinner today.
Yeah, but Gehad, what advice do you have for for husbands who are also husbands of creatives?
I've learned that I have to, like, what's the word?
Wait, that's your personality. Step back. You were going to say step back?
I have to step back a little bit. So like I have to support, but I can't overtly like push. Like, even though I'm doing it out of the goodness, like especially in the beginning, I'll be like, you need to do this and let's do this. And I'm going to help. I'll do it for you. Right.
Yeah.
To help, because I was really like, I wanted her to be successful.
Do you want me to draw? I'll draw for you. Do you want me to draw something?
But I've learned to, step back a little bit. I'll give her my feedback and then I'll leave it. So I won't push anymore. I'll tell her my thoughts and I'll leave. And usually when I do that with her, she'll think about it over time and decide. Yeah. But when I'm like overly like, let's do it. Yeah. She kind of gets like, oh, I'm tired. It sounds exhausting. And so I've learned
there's no equation. Like it really is feeding off of the energy of your spouse and knowing when to stop, when not to cross that line from like being supportive to being like too pushy or too like in my face. And I think it took us a while, but like we found that, alhamdulillah, we found that balance. And sometimes it spills over, but we work it out. So.
Do you have other family members doing that as well?
No, not really.
Everybody else is just like whatever, as long as you're involved in your comics.
Supports me. They love my work. They alhamdulillah, they will share it on our group, or anytime their group, like, it's so weird to me that my own family will like share something of my own and just laugh at it in the family group that I grew. Anyway, and then but then so they're really supportive in that sense, and they really like what I'm doing. But my mom is always like, just make sure, she's always has to be reminding me, like, just make sure you don't cross any lines, Huda. Or she was like, are you sure this is maybe not so appropriate, like maybe you shouldn't talk about that. So she's always there to kind of tell me not to cross the line.
We all need that. So as far as the characters, your comic also has a pretty large cast of characters. And of them, this is actually a question that my niece asks you. She says that Susan is a really interesting character. Is she based on a real person? And I'll add to that Darius, who is the FBI agent, who's also incredibly funny, and he's always popping up in random places. Are these guys based on real characters or real events?
They are definitely based on real events. With Susan, she represents every white lady that I've ever run into, or that my friends have run into, or people that we read on the news. Sometimes she's really well-meaning, well-intentioned, but usually like way off the mark. Sometimes just flat out racist, just doesn't know when to stop. And I always use her to kind of tell the story, like teach the lesson in a funny way, but also like, hey, you're learning something too. But she's not based on any one person. So she's like kind of a conglomerate of like a bunch of different people. I don't actually know anybody named Susan. So that's just the name. And then Darius, there's no one FBI there. He's based on like kind of what happened in New York, just knowing that, the FBI had been like monitoring Muslims and had a lot of informants and stuff like that within the Muslim community, and for like the dumbest things. And I'm kind of making fun of that.
Who's the voice of Darius in your head?
In my head, it's Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I don't know if you watch the show, but But anyway, it's
I haven't, but I've heard a lot about it. Yeah.
it's all right. Don't worry about it. But it was, but anyway, he's definitely based on, you know, the idea of the FBI just monitoring Muslims, the CVE people. I don't know if you know who they are, but yeah. So like, you know, who try to, you know, Muslims just need to help law enforcement. And anyway, but again, just like ridiculous notion. And so
she didn't have all the characters in the beginning. She like over time she thought of them and based on experiences, and you continuously still make new characters.
Yeah.
Are there any characters that, for example, people just didn't respond to and you kind of you know, kind of killed them off?
You had a Suzanne, the Arab.
No, she's still there.
Oh, she's there.
Yeah. Just
still alive.
Your toaster.
Yeah. My toaster was never really a character. Very original. Very early on, I had a toaster that would just pop up. He wasn't a character. He didn't talk or anything. He just would show up in random times. And so it was a good inside joke, a little Easter egg for people who had been following since the very beginning, because it's very early on. But yeah, I mean, people just stopped getting who and I just kind of forgot to add him. It was just kind of more mainstream. But I don't know if I have pop-ups. I have characters that pop up, but if I don't feel them, I'm like, eh. I have Visco Sheikh, who I haven't actually had a comic with him in a while.
Oh yeah, I remember him. I had to look up what Visco was.
I did too, actually. When she showed it to me, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't get it.
Hip, trying to make y'all, you know. But now it sucks because Visco is no longer like a trend anymore. It was very trendy, and now there's like nobody knows what a Visco is. So I have to what a Visco girl is. So I might have to have him transform into something else.
I had to look it on Google because I didn't get it.
I had no idea. Is there a character that is like the character, the Steve Urkel of your it is Gehad, huh?
And my character is an exaggeration of my real self.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know, man. She made you look like $1 billion in this book, bro.
Look at you.
She made you look like you were, mashallah, at first sight killer. Mashallah.
He's in the beginning of the book and in the end of the book. Like that's it. You don't have anything in the middle of it. But
did this spike your confidence?
I already have unlimited confidence.
He does.
He read this book. Basically, you know, this is a wonderful That Can Be Arranged, which is a hilarious title in and of itself, a Muslim love story. As soon as I read the title, I was dying. But in the book, Huda talks about.
I'm just curious. I know I laugh when I read it. Like even I laugh, and I like, you know, I don't usually laugh at my own stuff, but I crack up. I'm like.
No.
Ridiculous. It just feels so ridiculous.
What, the title?
No, the story. Just as I write it, it just makes me laugh. I giggle.
Well, here's the question: when you write, even when you write these short strips that Gehad was mentioning, like 3 panes or what have you, do you already have the idea written out, or is it unraveling in front of you as you're writing it?
So sometimes the comic literally will write itself. Like the idea will just appear and I'll be like, oh, got it, and we'll do it, and I'll write it down. Or draw it immediately without writing it down. But most of the time, I will set aside a couple hours where I will just brainstorm thoughts. I will go through Twitter, I'll go through the news. If I can't think of, you know, it's not like you tap a, faucet, turn on, and it just kind of, the ideas run. So you got to kind of sit with your own thoughts and travel back in time and remember, really look at every experience and situation, try to find a nuance in it and try to find something that really, what made this, so memorable? Why do I remember this memory, and what can I extract from it? And then it'll kind of turn into a little script that I'll write panel by panel, and then sometimes I'll just rework it or keep the conversation going. Like I'll write the conversation completely out and it'll just keep going until I find a part of that conversation that I think is funny enough, and that'll be it.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like real work.
It's a lot of work. It is.
It sounds like it's, because I'm saying this because a lot of times people think with, they see success and they just think like, oh, she just kind of wakes up and writes, and then she posts it on Instagram and that's it. But you're talking about, this was your daily routine for a while.
Yeah. Now it's because of quarantine, and my son was supposed to be, we have a 4-year-old, and he was supposed to be in school by now, but we've chosen to keep him home. And that was the case all summer. So Gehad has work every single day, and obviously he has help to that. And I can't ask him to, hey, can I have one day and you have one day? It's hard. And alhamdulillah, I have like the privilege of not having a 9 to 5. So I take the weekends and so he gives me the full 2 days of Saturday and Sunday, and I'm literally from morning to night just working. Yeah, so thank you for that.
So what current projects are you working on? What can we expect down
I'm
the
working
line?
on a third book. It is a graphic novel. It is for the younger audience. It's Huda in high school, her first year of high school. And
That's so awkward. I already know.
oh, it's very awkward.
I know it.
It's very awkward.
Even for me, it's awkward.
There's one page that I think you saw, and you're just like, why? Why are you writing this?
I was like, why do you want people to know
Why do
this?
you want people to know? I find it so funny. And
again, going back to being genuine about her story. So,
but I feel like I think it's funny. Other people have got to find it funny too. I mean,
sure.
I don't know.
There's a lot of awkward people out there, and people just love it.
You know. And anyway, so I'm working on that. I'm working on inshallah, a children's book, a picture book that I'm trying to work on at the same time, and something else that is a secret project that I can't talk about yet, but keep me in your eyes. So,
and of course, the number one place to follow you is
Instagram. I'm also on Twitter. I am on Facebook, but yes, Instagram is where a lot of the engagement happens. So, yes, I'm hot, and this is the name.
Great. Do you have anything you're working on your end?
I'm always working on something.
He is also top secret.
Non-comic related though.
Non-comic.
Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate, I'm just going to add my compliment to the long list of compliments that you have. But like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a huge fan, but I'm also very, very happy that, I can give these books to my niece. I can give them to people who will see themselves being represented and being represented in the right way. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, bless your pen, bless your time, bless your entire family. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll look forward to copying the next couple of books, inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.